Welcome to the Wild Type Podcast. I'm Neptune and Chameleon.
I'm Lyssa Lizards.
And we're your reptile girlies. Okay, we have to reference the meme that you said a couple episodes back of Back at It Again.
Because we figured out what it is, and I was right. It was a Vine, and it was an OG Vine meme. It was
Back at It Again with the white vans.
Yeah, it was the Damn Daniel one, which was like so iconic at the time.
Yes.
That was, I want to say that was like peak 2012 Vine. That was
we have had multiple of you comment on it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Because I was like, there has to be someone who knows what the heck you're talking about.
I'm not going to lie. That drove me a little bit crazy for like a few days. And I just didn't look it up because I was just thinking it would come to me. It was like one of those in the back of my head kind of things. But I was like, I know that's something. And so thank you guys. I appreciate you.
Mm-hmm. Well, you just came back from Fairyland, the Pacific Northwest.
It was the best. I love feeling like a fairy frolicking in the forest. It's literally my favorite thing in the whole world.
What little critters did you find while you were there?
I found so many. I found, this one's really dumb, but I was very excited. There was a little leaf and there was a little tiny fly on it, and the fly had a broken wing. And so he was just like crawling around on this little leaf.
I feel like that's like a symbol for something.
I don't know what it was a symbol for, but it was the most, so I held him in my hand. It was so cute. So we saw him. We saw tons of mushrooms, which was just like so fun to find natural mushrooms.
Yeah.
I got so many good mushroom pics. I saw so much, like, I don't know why, but I was like so enthralled by like all the moss in this forest.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It was so cool.
Because it's like shaded and damp, so all that stuff just grows on the bottom. Totally.
And, like where I live is just like not a thing. And so it was just so cool because I just don't get to see stuff like that very often.
Yeah.
I was so green and there were so many ferns, and we saw some squirrels, and we saw tons of slugs, like these huge, like this big slugs.
Yep.
Big old green Shrek looking things. It was so cool.
You should look up a banana slug.
Ooh, I have seen those.
If you lick them, they taste like banana. Or they make your tongue go numb. What's the slug that makes your tongue go numb?
I mean, I will not be licking any slugs to find that out.
This was a thing in like middle school, right? Like you got dared to lick the slug.
The banana slug, yeah.
And like one of the slugs, I can't remember if it's a banana slug, makes your tongue go numb though. And that was like the thing.
That feels unsafe.
Probably.
That feels like
I
dangerous.
never did it, but everyone else lived to tell the tale.
Because you're smart.
I'm also a big weenie when it comes to that stuff, but yeah.
That's fair. No, it was so fun. We love the Pacific Northwest, and anytime we get to go visit. And it was for a wedding, which was beautiful. I mean, they had all the views, the mountains.
Yeah, we were in peak wedding season right now. This is like the time everyone's getting married.
This is literally my last wedding of 2024.
Oh, that means your anniversary's coming up now that I think about it.
Yeah, in October.
We'll have to talk about that in an upcoming episode.
We have 2 anniversaries coming up. We have the anniversary of us finding our dog, and then we also have our wedding anniversary.
Very close to each other.
Which are 9 days apart.
Very close to, Campbell's Gotcha Day.
Yeah,
no, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, today's episode is going to be all about mistakes.
Yes.
Common mistakes we see with reptile keepers. Now, if this feels familiar, it's because this is part 2.
Number 2.
Believe it or not, this was our 6th episode.
That's wild.
When we did common mistakes.
Are we at 45 yet? 44?
We're above 40 for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact order of when this one's getting posted with all the other ones we're doing.
This one's either like 43 or 44 or
Definitely above 40. Absolutely. Yeah. So we've done quite a few episodes. And in fact, I think you rewatched the old one and prepped for this one.
I had to make sure any of the ones that I was going to bring up in this episode we didn't bring up in the last.
Correct. I also
I'm going to feel really dumb if somebody is like commenting and being like, you already said that. I'm like, thanks for telling me. I didn't know. So I made sure and looked it up.
No, so I watched back, and even our intro was like not as slick as the one we have now. Because when we say like, and where are your reptile? Like we were like off a little bit. We weren't like
we're still getting that nailed down. We were still figuring out.
We're babies.
I know.
Baby podcasters.
I know.
Now we're professionals.
We're getting there. We're
technically we are professional because we have monetized the YouTube channel.
Yes.
We've made a whopping $12 so far.
We appreciate you all for our $12. We really do.
So if you watch the ads, thank you, because we now have $12 in our podcast fund. So
woo, really proud of that.
This is good. But okay, so I came up with some new mistakes. I know you have a few that you wanted to talk about. The first one I wanted to bring up was overfeeding.
That's huge. And I mean, we've obviously also had like an episode on like obese reptiles as well, but it's just very common. You just see it all the time. And I think some of it might stem from, I mean, it would make sense if like, you know, you feed them a lot more as babies and then you just like never stop that as they grow.
I see that a lot. That is what I see. Or because we as humans, if we're hungry, we eat. And then when we're full, we stop eating. So we're like, oh, they keep eating and eating and eating. They're eating whatever I put in front of them. So they must be hungry.
Right.
Well, that's not the case because of them being opportunistic feeders versus us being like hunter and gatherers. So it's just a common mistake. And then it does typically lead to obese reptiles and then like all the negative implications that come with that. So it's something we see pretty often.
It's also just so funny because I still to this day, I mean, you know, I've been posting on the internet for how many years? Like I literally still get people who are shocked that reptiles don't eat every day as adults. And so I think that's just something that because humans eat every day, cats eat every day, dogs eat every day.
Right, absolutely.
Like multiple times a day. So it's like we naturally just assume that they eat every day.
And a lot of baby reptiles do eat every day because they're trying to grow quickly. Did you ever see the video of the cartoon animals that are like fat, that look like little balloons?
Yes.
That's what I
100%.
And they're all like safari animals, like chubby zebras and lions and whatever else. I'm totally watching that later tonight because that video was hilarious. But I'm just imagining a version of that, but of like reptiles.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what we see sometimes. Not often, but I mean, enough that it's definitely like a common mistake. I mean, even if the reptile isn't like super obese yet, I often see people talking about like, oh, like this is their feeding schedule. And I'm like, oh, that's an adult. Let's slow that down a little bit for their poor metabolism.
The amount of times I've have to tell people, I'm like, sorry, your chameleon's chubby.
Yeah.
And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. They need to go on diet.
Sorry.
So that's my first one. What did you have on your list?
Mine this is one that I was actually like, I was watching the part 1 that we did, and I was like mind boggled that I did not bring this up because I'm very passionate about this and have made many TikToks about it. But cocoa fiber as a substrate, like that is something that I just like. It's not the worst thing in the world for sure. I mean, there are like worse substrates that you can use, but it is so common with specifically leopard geckos, which is like crazy to me.
I see a lot of repti bark too.
That too. And again, not the worst thing in the world. Definitely for chameleons, not a good one, but like other species like snakes and stuff like that. Like, you know, I know a lot of people use repti bark for like ball pythons. And again, not the worst, but in my opinion, just like not one of the best options. Cocoa fiber, the issue that I have with cocoa fiber is that if you're bioactive, that is not a substrate that is going to be like nutrient dense at all for any plants whatsoever. You're like not really going to be able to get any plants to thrive in there.
Right.
But again, that's like not even the worst issue. The big issue with the cocoa fiber is that it literally, like for leopard geckos in particular, cocoa fiber, one of the reasons it's used and mixed into substrate is because it can generate like higher humidity and it can hold humidity really well. Leopard geckos don't need high humidity. So with cocoa fiber, if you are basically like if you're dampening it, it's going to be too humid for leopard geckos.
Interesting.
But then if you dry it out, it's way too dry for them and it almost like gets flaky and dusty in the air. And they're breathing that in and it can really irritate their eyes. And so it's one of those where it's just like, in my personal opinion, cocoa fiber is just like not a substrate that you should ever use by itself, just like straight out of the bag.
I see what you're saying.
Like it should be something that is mixed into a substrate in order to like help build up that humidity for the species that need it.
Right.
But I see so many people just like using it for leopard geckos, even bearded dragons.
Every pet store.
And it is like a cheap substrate option. So like I understand why that's people's inkling, but this kind of, not to like jump into like another one that I had, but just so many people don't realize that like you can mix substrates. And this is one that should be mixed, because people, I think when you're entering the reptile hobby and you're like starting, out and you're a new keeper, like you don't fully realize that, like, I think so many people are like, oh, bag of substrate, take it, dump it in, that's good.
Well, you would hope that it would have what you would need. And then they slap a picture of a reptile on it that's not even suitable for whatever that substrate or even product is. So, yeah.
So it's like, I understand why people's inkling is like, oh, this works as a substrate. But the reality is, like, so many substrates are really best when mixed in with other things in order to, like, create a mix that has all the different properties that you need in it.
Totally.
And that includes for plants and things like that, if you're going to go that route. And so that's just one that drives me so crazy, especially for leopard geckos, because it's either too moist or it's too dry, and both can cause problems.
Do you feel better now that you got that?
Yes, I do. It was like, I was literally listening to the part 1 and I was like, why did I not bring this up?
Because there was a lot of obvious low-hanging fruit ones that we had to talk about. Okay, one I have is skipping gut load. So I see this a lot because people are usually pretty good about their supplements and they know that's important. That's something we talked about in part 1. But some people don't understand what gut loading. I mean, we talked about this in like our reptile words one. Like gut load is like kind of a weird word.
It's a strange word.
Yeah. So a lot of people just like skip it or don't realize the importance of it. So if anyone's listening and you didn't listen to our vocab episode, gut loading is the process of feeding nutrient dense, typically fresh fruits and vegetables, to your bugs prior to feeding them to your reptiles, so that they have all those micronutrients that are then being passed on to your reptile. If you don't, then they're basically these empty shells of bugs. They'll still have the protein and the fats and things like that, but not all the micronutrients. So we usually feed fresh fruits and vegetables. There are a lot of great dry gut loads that are on the market right now that have like I wanted to say arugula. That's not what is it? Alfalfa. Alfalfa and like flax seeds and all these different things mixed in. And so you can pair that with some fresh fruits and veggies. So don't skimp on your gut load. Also, the quality of your gut load, like putting in a slice of potato, while it's better than nothing, is not going to be the same as like putting in a variety of like mustard greens, collard greens, mango, sweet potato, bee
carrots,
pollen,
all the things, all of that stuff. And just to piggyback on that, people either don't gut load at all, or they're using those little orange cubes. So that was not one that quencher. That wasn't one that I had written down, but as you were talking about, I was like, oh yeah, we didn't mention that. So
there's just better options. Something that I've done recently is make these like little gut load ice cubes.
Those are so cool.
Where you basically blend all those ingredients into a food processor, put them in a little silicone like tray, like ice cube tray, and then just pop them out. That way you're not wasting all the food, because like my dubia roaches are not taking down a whole mango, a whole sweet potato, a whole head of mustard greens. I'm ripping off bits and pieces and feeding it to them. So a lot of it goes to waste, and then you're only able to use a couple of them at a time because they can only eat so much. So the cubes are not only convenient, but they're also saving from food waste, and you're packing, and I put like 12 different fruits and veggies in those little cubes.
Yeah, no, I'm obsessed with that idea. I still haven't tried it. I really need to. I just haven't.
Tutorial on YouTube. Check it out.
Yes, it's a good one. But yeah, no, I think that's something that just people do a lot. And like you said, the orange cubes, like they're not the worst thing in the world, but
better
not
than
the
nothing.
best.
But yeah, definitely could be doing better.
Just in general, let's just gut load the best way possible.
Yep.
So,
all right. Over to you.
My next one is, again, one that I was like surprised we like didn't mention, but going too small with the enclosure from the get-go, because I think there's a little bit of a misconception, and this probably stems from like the ball python world a little bit, where a lot of people talk about how, you don't want to get them too big of an enclosure because you don't want to freak them out and, have them be like a little bit overwhelmed, or, which can happen with species like ball pythons and some other ones too. So I think that's where it stems from. But people think that you have to have like a baby sized enclosure and then upgrade. And for most species, as long as you're like really cluttering out the enclosure, you don't have to go with the smallest enclosure from the get-go.
And likely you're not dealing with like hatchlings, right? You're dealing with reptiles that are probably at least a few months old that are already on like well-established like bugs or food or whatever it is that they're eating. A part of me is like, do pet stores just like sell you a smaller enclosure? Because one, that's all they have available.
True.
Right? They don't even sell the larger
the 4x2s
enclosures.
or anything like that. Yeah.
No. And it's more money for them, right? Because then you're going to come back then buy a different enclosure. So I understand the logic behind it of like, oh, they're not going to find their food. Like, what is your gecko doing in Madagascar? What is your chameleon doing in...
Right.
Or did I say Madagascar? New Caledonia, wherever your gecko's from.
Whichever one.
Whatever island.
There are geckos in Madagascar too.
Yeah. But like they're able to find their food just fine, you know? And so to your point, but if it's not well set up or there's not enough hiding places, then they're not going to be
and that's
doing well.
And I mean, we talk all the time about, you know, animals who aren't eating. It's usually like a husbandry issue, but a lot of people will blame them not eating on it being like too big of an enclosure and it stresses them out and this and that. And that's just kind of like the mentality that has kind of stemmed from the reptile community a little bit. And it just, again, if you clutter it,
it's more expensive. And then also your reptile has to get readjusted to a new enclosure and like, just go big.
Go big.
From the beginning.
But again, the key, if you're going to go bigger, is that you really, really have to clutter it out. So you have to make sure that they feel secure. If it's a glass enclosure, make sure, you know, vinyling up the sides to kind of, again, security, all that. So.
Yes, love it. So speaking of arboreal species, the next one I had, a common mistake I see is keeping arboreal species on the ground.
Oh, yep.
So arboreal by itself, this was also one of our vocab words, means that they're tree climbers, right? Yes. They're up in the trees, they're up off the floor is the gist of it. So height equals safety for them. Yes. So by keeping their enclosures on the ground, odds are you have a maximum of like a 4 foot tall enclosure. We're on average like 5 to 6 feet tall creatures. So you just walking by them, you're towering over their enclosures, which can cause them to be stressed out because again, they don't know that you're not
a predator.
Yeah. And so the best thing you can do is just get them up off the floor. And I get it. It's sometimes clunky to like find something that can like hold, especially like a glass enclosure because those things are like heavy, right? Or something that's like 4 foot wide, like not all like nightstands or coffee tables are big enough to have that. But be thoughtful when you're thinking of your enclosure and the species you want to keep that like arboreal species need to be up off the ground. It's a very common mistake. It's a very easy fix. So I would encourage you to
But it also, like, I mean, it, of course, you know, depends on how many enclosures you have and if you're using, you know, racks to set them on or whatever, like all those things. But even if you just have like one singular reptile or something, like there are such cute cabinet displays that get them up off the ground.
I like that's the direction you go because that's so your personality. But then I have garage shelves that are the most industrial, ugly, clunky little things.
They're not bad though.
I did spray paint them black because they were black and red, and the red was like really clashing with my green reptile room.
I remember the red. Or I do remember the red.
Yeah. So when I moved into my house, I was like, I have to take them all apart anyway. So I'm like, we're gonna spray paint them black to at least give them like.
Yeah.
They're fine. They're not cutesy though.
But what I like about yours in particular is that they aren't. I feel like a lot of the times those cabinet displays or whatever prop them up really high. Yours is like the perfect height.
Like 1.5 feet off the ground.
So I think that's like the perfect height for what you need.
Well, so I have 4 foot. My ceilings are only so tall.
I know. And so I'm like, that's the perfect height for what you need. B, it's easy for you to do the drainage system that way, which with chameleons, you obviously need like a solid drainage system.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it just works. Like
they're just not cutesy.
Oh, whatever. I like the way yours look, to be honest.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, but that is definitely where my mind goes because I'm all about the aesthetics.
Yes, which is why that's what I'm saying. That's totally your vibe. That's like your thing. You would totally like thrift something that would be totally adorable that you would put like your one single gecko if that's what you had.
If I had one gecko, it would be so decked out. Like it would. I mean, most of mine, you know, I try to deck them out in some sort of way or have them look all nice and organized. But if I just had one, that would be. That would be a lot.
Yep.
So, okay. So the next one that I had was, so this was another one that I was surprised that we didn't mention before. It's so funny as I was just listening through.
We had to get through all the basics. I know. We got through like red lights, mealworms, like I think it was supplements.
It was just so long ago that I like forgot. And I was like, oh my God, we didn't mention this. We didn't mention this.
Well, that's why when I brought up we should do a part 2, you're like, didn't we already do that? I was like, but there was so much we didn't.
I know. And then it was
didn't talk about.
Once I was like re-listening to it, I was like, oh, this is so much easier because I kind of had it in my head a little bit. I was like, we already covered like so much. Like what else is there going to be?
Which we did.
We did.
But there's still a lot more.
I know. So it just kind of shocked me. But so this one is one of the, and this is probably like one of the most common that I see with any new keeper, especially if they're buying stuff from chain pet stores, is those sticky hygrometers that are like the, what is,
Analog.
Yeah. So first off, it's analog, which isn't going to be like the most
nearly as accurate. Yeah.
But that's not even the problem. The problem.
This is so not a chameleon keeper problem.
I know,
but continue on.
Yeah, because they have screen enclosures.
Yes, no, I know exactly why. Which is why when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. That's the thing.
It's the fact that they're sticky. You never want to put anything sticky in your reptile enclosure because, and it's funny, even in like the chain pet stores, they use these, and you see all the time. I'll see like a baby corn snake wrapped around it. And they do that. I've witnessed that in a PetSmart before. And so what happens is if that little sticky piece ever falls off, which is likely over time,
right.
it will eventually fall off and it can stick to your reptile and literally rip their scales off.
Right, because of like the residue, the sticky,
like that
whatever.
It can, if it gets on their eyes, it can like severely damage their eyes.
No.
It can severely harm their scales. It can rip their claws out if they're getting their little claws in it. Like it's almost the equivalent of like I've seen in different like warehouses and things like that. People will set like glue traps for mice.
Yes.
Which are just really, really cruel. Like, and so it's almost the equivalent of that in your enclosure, and you don't even realize that that's like a possible risk.
So this is the reason why I say this is not an issue with chameleon keepers, because typically we keep them in screen enclosures. Some people keep in glass, but usually we're in screen enclosures, and I always recommend digital, like hygrometer, something that you can put in there, take it out, put in there, take it out, because they're not usually waterproof, which is a whole nother thing, but
just a huge pain. But yes,
there are waterproof ones. They're just very expensive.
I know.
So what would you recommend then for someone who's in a glass or PVC enclosure, like
that? The ones that you can take in and out, and
so you wouldn't even recommend. I mean, they're garbage.
Yeah,
like. Okay, I don't mean to poo-poo all over them, but they're like not nearly as accurate as a digital.
Yes.
And it's going to be measuring that particular part of your enclosure. It's not measuring like the middle area or your basking area or wherever else.
You're going to have to move it around in order to get like accurate temperatures anyways. So I would either say two things. I would either say, just use one of those that you can just get like 2 or 3 of them and put them in there as you're checking the humidity levels and everything. Or if you can find one that is like a magnet situation.
Magnets literally popped into my head while you were saying that. Yeah.
So like, and I haven't even done this. This is just something I've seen and thought of. But you can use magnets through glass. I don't know if you can use it through PVC, depending on how thick the PVC is. But
and how powerful the magnet
100%.
Those Pangea ledges, those magnets.
Those suckers will snap your fingers off. I'm not even kidding.
I've pinched myself a few times trying to.
I have like really almost hurt my fingers with those magnets.
No, those magnets are. Don't mess around.
Props to Pangea because those suckers are not coming off.
Well, they have to go through the glass and they have to withstand the weight of like a gecko potentially landing on the ledge.
And also they're accounting for like all the different species of geckos. There's like lychee geckos that are like heavy. Yeah,
they got some grams behind them.
They got some weight. So like those things, they're real sturdy.
So I'm confident those magnets will get through PVC just fine.
I totally agree. Those things, I've pinched the hell out of my fingers on those.
Okay, speaking of your hygrometers and everything, a mistake that I had very simply is just not having a weight to measure the temperatures and humidity.
Yep, that's so true.
Because the amount of times where I'm like messaging with new keepers and I'm like, so what are your humidity levels? And they're like, I don't know. And what are your, basking temperatures? Like, I don't know. And they just don't know that you have tools at your disposal to be able to measure them. And so every single keeper, in my opinion, should have a digital hygrometer and a thermal temp gun.
Yep.
Those should be like staples.
I'm not gonna lie. The temp gun is like a game for me. I'm like, like I'm always in there like checking everything.
I get like a Buzz Lightyear moment, because he has a little laser on his arm. It's like,
I know.
Come in, Star Command.
Yeah. Like, Yeah, no, I love my temp gun. It's a toy.
And
like
they're really small investments, right?
It's like 10, 12, $15 on Amazon.
Yeah,
so.
and then a hygrometer is no more than like $10. So like $20 and you can get yourself like a temp gun and hygrometer. Also, I've never replaced the batteries on my temp gun or hygrometer.
I don't think I have either.
And I've had them for 6 years. Those suckers, and granted, I'm not using them every single day, to be clear. I'm sure if I was like temp gunning everything, because you get to the point where like you know where your ranges are, and so you're just like double checking things are where they're supposed to be. But like 6 years? Come on.
That's pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah.
And now that I'm thinking about it, I definitely don't think I've ever changed the batteries on my temp gun either. And I use mine quite a bit.
Right, because you have to heat up your rats.
Yeah. That's like a weekly. Yeah. So
yes, that's an easy, like all these mistakes I feel like are relatively easy fixes, are not going to be like crazy.
Super detrimental. I will say the sticky stuff can be very detrimental.
Yes.
But that's probably the only one that I would say is like dangerous.
But these are just things that are like, oh yeah, I didn't even realize that I should lift up my enclosures or anything.
I did have one more. And this one is just like a personal vendetta that I have because Voldemort, my legless lizard, is a psycho, as we know. And so I had these like those ready-made backgrounds, you know, and they're awesome. They're beautiful.
They look like very naturalistic, rocky.
Oh my gosh, like they're stunning.
Landscapes. Yeah,
they're gorgeous. Like I'm not against them, but just something that people might not think about, especially if you're newer in the hobby, is I'm just at a point where I just prefer the custom-made backgrounds, even though I'm having a hard time getting mine finished at the moment. But these ready-made ones go in and there's all this space behind them
because they're inserts technically, right? Versus, just to be clear for anyone who's listening, what you're talking about when you do them yourself, you're like gluing
stuff on the back
to the back versus an insert that is fitting into that space. But you're saying it's not going to be sealed.
It's not sealed. And snakes 100% will get back there, hide back there. I don't know when or if you'll ever see them again. And lizards can also do that too. It depends on the species. Like the background that's in Nilla, my blue tongue skink's enclosure, she's never gotten behind it. Nilla's
not a mischievous.
She'll get up on the top, but she's never like gone back behind it.
No.
Voldemort.
I distinctly have memories of this.
And I've taken him out of there since then. So he's like not even in there because that was just like a huge pain. But when I was living in my studio, I'm not even joking.
Your desk was positioned
right next to him.
Yes.
And it was like 6 times a day that I would hear like, and he would like be flopping out from behind. He loved to go back there and explore. So it was like this really awkward thing where I was like, I understand that you're having fun. Like I get that you're having a good time, but you are stressing me the hell out because I'm scared that you're going to get like scratched or injured back there.
Do you think it's like parents when they watch their kids on like the playground?
100%.
You know, and you're 100%. Like, I'm glad you're having fun, but if we could use 2 hands on the monkey bars, like literally, that'd be great.
No, that's like exactly what it was. And I think that can be solved. So again, like this isn't a mistake. This is just something I've experienced that I didn't think of when I bought this thing.
Yeah, so caution to anyone.
Just like caution. If you're going to use the ready-made enclosure backgrounds that are the inserts, like you said, which was a great explanation. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But like if you're going to use those, I would highly, highly recommend making them permanent. And by that, I mean using the Great Stuff gaps and cracks and like literally filling it in to where they cannot get back
because
there.
They're beautiful backgrounds.
They're gorgeous backgrounds, and there's nothing technically wrong with them. It was just like a risk and a concern for me, and I know that if a snake got back there, it literally may not come out. Like I was lucky that Voldemort is so active that he like is always was always going in and out, so it was kind of okay. But the snakes, like they might love it back there and never come out, and you'll never see it again. And then my fear is, as you're trying to take it out to find them, you'll injure them. So it caused me severe anxiety. So if you're going to use inserts like that, just spray it up, get all that foam back there, make sure there are no gaps. Just something I have personally learned and caused me a lot of anxiety.
I appreciate you sharing with the class so people can not do that. And with that, the 2024 summer season comes to a close. But that also means there's brand new Pangea reptile deals.
Now is a prime time to buy a crested gecko because they have 15 to 20% off discounts on tricolors, dark-based, yellow-based, and red-based cresties throughout the month of September. Both of our New Caledonian geckos love eating from their ledges, so if you want to give them a try, Pangea's acrylic ledges will be on sale along with a 12-pack of their silicone cups.
And no surprise here, they will be offering deals on various isopods, so it's a great time to refresh your bioactive enclosures at PangeaReptile.com. Speaking of Voldy, we didn't touch on this. So you went out of town, but you were out of town for like a good chunk of time.
Yeah, like I think it was like 6 days. Yeah,
enough where you're like, hey, can you go check on the reptile kiddos?
If it's more than 3 days, I'll have you check.
Yeah, so. I'm happy to do it. And so I got this long list of like all the different reptiles. Here's what everyone needs, and then you put in Voldy, and you're like, literally nothing.
Literally nothing. I fed him so much that he would be perfectly fine for the 6 days. And I also fed him like the day that we left. So it was technically only like, I think like a 5 day between he was like being fed.
But then by the time you get back, it's like 4 days. Yeah.
And I basically just fed him. I usually feed him twice a week anyway. And so this time I just fed him a really big meal for that 1 week because I don't trust him. I literally don't trust him.
You're like, don't even open his enclosure. Like just leave him alone.
Don't even mess with it because if he pops out that door, I know you, and I know that you are not going to be able to catch him. And then
how fast does a legless lizard move?
He's not slow. He's actually fast.
Yeah, that would not end well.
He is like, it's so funny because he's just such a freaking character. And like, I don't even trust him with me sometimes. So I was like, don't even look at him. Like, it's not worth it.
I just got eyes on him. I'm like, you alive? You alive.
Yes,
okay,
you
that's
good.
all I need.
We good. Yeah,
that's
I do not trust that little snaky lizard at all.
No, and I'm fine with it. Because even when I have had to feed him in the past, I'm very much like, because he loves to burrow, you know? And so like, I can't see where he is.
And you don't know which hole he's popping out of.
Yeah, because he has all his little tunnels and stuff. And so I'm like very quick and I'm very strategic and I'm like looking. And I see like some part of him. I'm like, is that the head or the tail? I don't know.
I don't know.
So
you never know.
I am very quick of like in, out. And like if one of your geckos popped out or if Nilla got out, easily. And even if one of your snakes, like I would get your little snake hook and I could like,
But the problem is with legless lizards, this is such a tangent on legless lizards in particular, but with legless lizards, their bodies don't wrap around the hook like snakes do.
Saying.
So like I use the hook with him sometimes just for like extra support on his body or whatever. But like he doesn't, it doesn't work like it does with snakes because he just kind of like leans on it and then it'll just fall right off.
It'd be like the one species that I'd be like,
you would have to catch him with your hands, and I know that would freak you the hell out, and it would be a whole problem. And I just don't trust that he is not going to pop out of that sucker the minute you open it. Yeah, he just is. You just can't.
The rest of it, we're good. Scooby was like all over his enclosure. Oh, yeah. Nancy popped her little head out. That was probably my favorite part. She's so adorable.
She's such a little nugget.
I could not find Poke for the life of me. So that made me nervous. I do try to get eyes on everybody.
She was in there. She was the first one that I checked when I got home because you had said you couldn't find her. So she's fine.
Where is she? And like, I feel like she was on like the backside of like one of her cork bark pieces.
It's 100% the backside of that like big tree that's sticking out of the background.
Yeah.
I know as soon as you told me you couldn't find her, I was like, I know exactly where she is. She's fine.
Right. But it made me nervous because I'm like,
it's fair. I try
to get eyes on everyone.
Yeah.
And then Tarzan was in his hide and he just like poked his head out just so slightly.
I'm not going to lie. That's like one of my favorite things about Tarzan. And
he's so inquisitive.
He's so inquisitive and intelligent. And he just watches every move you make.
But I'm also like, don't move.
I know.
Please don't move.
He's very slow. Like he wouldn't move super quick. He's very slow.
But I don't know snake body language.
Right.
Just in general.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like missing and he's like, hello. And I'm like,
too close.
Stay right where you are. Put your hands up.
So funny. No, but that's what I love about him so much. And I can't remember if I've like told the story on the pod before, but I noticed for the very first time how inquisitive he was when he was younger. And I had been messing with something in like the corner of his enclosure. It was like that Exoterra. And I had like popped off the corner and I think I was like replacing a cord or something that was in there. I think it was his thermostat that I was. So anyway, so I was just lifting up that corner. I didn't take the whole thing off, whatever. So I come back into the reptile room, like maybe like 20 minutes after I had been doing that. And he had been in his hide the whole time that I was doing that, but watching me.
Yeah.
I come back into the reptile enclosure maybe 20 minutes later. He was fully out of his hide and in that corner, inspecting that corner.
So interesting.
So, and I've never seen snakes like care that much about like what I'm doing and like paying attention and being like intelligent enough to be like, what was she doing in that corner? Like what was going on
like
over
the
there?
Smells or something that like enticed his curiosity.
Something. And so that was the first time that I really like noticed his intelligence.
No, he's a good one.
He's so inquisitive. He's keeping his eyes on you at all times.
Yeah. And then also Kermit came out to say hi. So
little girl, I love her.
She was cute.
She's my little froggy girl.
Okay, so I just wanted to share that tidbit because like it's always a fun time when I get to check on your kiddos.
I know, a little tangent, but
so we're going into another blind ranking.
I'm so excited about this one.
We're brainstorming because like we haven't done a blind ranking. Like, what do we want to do? We're like, sports, no. Candy, no. We do need to do Halloween candy though soon.
That will be happening. 150%.
Don't get me started on candy corn.
I also think that we're just going on so many tangents today. I also think that we should do a Halloween Peeps tasting thing because I have never tried any of the Halloween Peeps.
Okay, but the Halloween ones are all the same flavors.
Oh, okay. That's
the Christmas ones have different flavors.
Maybe we'll do it for Christmas. That's fine.
Yeah, because there's chocolate reindeer for Christmas. But for Halloween, they have the pumpkins, they have the ghosts, they have the Frankensteins. They don't have like a pumpkin spice flavor? No.
That's
they
shocking.
made this year. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't put it past them.
I know. I'm like, that shocks me.
But previously, Halloween, they just do shapes, but they're not different
That's fine.
flavors. So
okay. Well, never mind.
I appreciate your enthusiasm and willingness to participate.
I'm like, Halloween's mine thing. Peeps are your thing.
I love that. No, like, that's great.
Let's, combine
I will happily eat Halloween Peeps. I'm just telling you, there's no flavor difference.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a bummer. Never mind.
But this blind ranking, we're doing.
I'm so excited about this one.
We're doing red flags with dating.
Yeah.
Per usual. She doesn't know my 5. I don't know her 5. We have to rank them 1 to 5. This is a little bit of a unique scenario. 1 is going to be the least worst, and then 5 will be the worst.
Because they all suck. All of these red flags suck.
Right. So, and they're varying levels of red flags. Yeah. And it's always interesting because, like, I don't know yours. And there's been times where you've gone, like, a different direction with your stupid appetizers. But generally speaking, we're on the same page. So do you want to do yours first or mine first?
I don't care. I can go first.
Okay.
You want me to go first?
Go for it.
Okay. All right. Let's do this. This one was really fun to come up with. I'm not going to lie.
And feel free to play along. How would you rank these? Because you don't know what we're going to say either.
Yeah. Honestly, like leave your rankings in the comments because I would like to know.
No cheating as well.
No. Yeah.
You have to write them as you hear them.
As they go. Yes. Okay. So this one is one. This one just drives me absolutely insane on a good first date. So when they ask you 0 questions about you or your life on date 1.
Oh, there would not be a second date.
Exactly.
That's a deal breaker. That's not a red flag. I mean, I guess a lot of these are deal breakers, but yeah, that's I'm gonna put that right in the middle.
Solid. Yeah.
Because I need some wiggle room, but like that to me is like.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Red flag. Like the least you can do is ask me about myself. I mean, it should be a back and forth, right?
Of course.
Like not an interview.
I should be asking questions. You should be asking questions.
Yes.
But
it should be a conversation.
Right. But it shouldn't feel like an interview on anyone's side.
No.
So, and that's never fun.
Also, it's not attractive when you're not showing any interest in like what the other person cares about.
No.
So
like, we need to be interested in each other. That's kind of like the entire point of dating.
Yeah. No, I'm going 3 right in the middle.
Okay, that's solid. And I'm writing down the numbers as I go. So this one's kind of funny because I feel like in today's day and age, this doesn't happen that often. But like potentially like once you're at the point where the person might pick you up for your date, right?
Okay.
Honking.
Oh.
Honking when they pull up to your home instead of coming to the door.
Okay, so I briefly was seeing this guy. Don't get your hopes up. Did not go well. But he would pick me up for dates. And I thought that was super cute to like pick someone up. But he would always get out of his car and like open the car door for me.
As he should. I will die on that hill.
In a neighborhood, honking would be like
Rude.
Like, so disturbing to the neighborhood.
So inconsiderate.
Like, someone's car alarm was going off the other day, and that was very jarring. Yeah. Like, what is happening? Oh, okay. Yeah. I feel like there's worse on your list, so
yes,
I'm gonna put that as 5.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, cool. That one I just had to, because
the least worst. Annoying, but that's not like, I'm not gonna think you're a terrible person,
right?
For that, I'm just gonna be like, shame on you.
That's one that like my dad really harped on when I was like in high school, which is why it came to mind.
It's never happened to me. I guess no one's honked to pick me up.
It happened to me one time, and my dad wouldn't let me go outside. So that's why, like, to me, I'm like, absolutely not.
Number 5 for me.
Okay. All right. So this one is interesting, but I feel like this is fairly common, but they only speak terribly about their exes or say that their ex is crazy.
Oh, no. We don't like that.
We don't like that. Because that tells me you're projecting something, and that it's probably more so your fault.
Also, like, why do you have to tell me all of that?
Right. Like, I don't care. And also, all these red flags, mind you, are probably, we're assuming, in the first like few months of dating.
Yeah.
So why are we like bashing on another woman within like, or man, whoever it is, like bashing on another human being in the first like.
No, I don't appreciate when people do it with like their coworkers or their friends. No. And your significant other, your ex, whoever, could be like the dirt on your shoe. Right. I don't care, but like, that does not mean that you need to talk poorly about them.
No.
Dang. Okay.
It just immediately rubs me the wrong way. Immediately.
But I feel.
And then I also wonder what you're hiding.
Okay. Do I want to save my 1? I'm thinking 2.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll go 2. I'm between 2 and 4, but like, I don't know what you have coming, so we'll leave 1 and 4 left.
We got 2 left.
Okay.
All right. This one's like a pretty obvious one, but this one is a huge one for me. But jealousy over friends of the opposite gender.
Oh, yeah. No. Not a fan of that.
Nope.
What is your last one going to be, though? Jealousy. Yeah, I've actually experienced this.
Same. Yeah.
Was not a fan. It ended up like being trust issues that were like rooted in past experiences that they've had with other people, and it creeped into our relationship, and I was like, I didn't do anything to deserve this distrust. Your feelings are valid. I understand your past has like caused you
100%.
I'm trying to give you assurances, like,
and like if we're gonna be in a relationship, like we can like work through it together, as long as like you are also understanding that this is not healthy,
right?
Like,
no, I'll put that number 1. That to me is a big red flag. Like
yeah. No, that's a really big one for me too.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. Like I had an ex who I've got very, very good guy friends since like I was like 15. Like they're very close friends. They're like my brothers, and like I've never had any interest in any of them. And so I had a guy that I've been dating for years at this point, and he like randomly out of nowhere after hanging out with them one time, and he had hung out with them multiple times, started like getting jealous and like asking me like, has anything ever happened? And I was like,
this is my 2 cents. It takes 2 to tango.
Yes.
Right? Even if one of my guy friends was interested in me, if I was interested in them, 1, it would have happened already.
Right? I was like, sir.
Like I would have shot my shot. Like,
I was like,
if it was going to happen, it would have happened already.
Especially like my specific situation. These are friends of like 10 years. Like, are you kidding? Come on.
And even if they were interested in me for whatever reason, it takes 2 to tango, and I would have to reciprocate that. And out of respect for our relationship, I'd be very clear of here are the boundaries. If that wasn't respected, I'm like, hey, don't think we can be friends anymore. Like, I would be so like so clear of expectations.
And your partner or whoever you're dating, even if it's in the early stages, should be able to trust you in that way, even early on. So that's a huge one.
Yeah.
So
no. Okay. What's my default number 4?
Number 4 is you're months into dating and he is really weird about posting you on social media at all.
Okay. Yeah, that's a red flag too. But I'm okay with that being a number 4. And so I've been single for hot minute, guys. Okay, years at this point, and I'm talking like official to the point where like I'd put you on my like
social media. Yeah.
So even when the day comes where I'm like seriously dating someone again, it's gonna be incredibly uncomfy for me to like post them on.
No, that's a big deal.
Social media, just because it's like a muscle I haven't
flexed
used
in a
for a
while.
bit. I know that's like a weird analogy, but like
no, it makes so much sense. And
it's not something I'm used to.
I would be the exact same way. I mean, when I posted Logan, I had not posted a man on my feed in nearly 3 years. So like, I get it. It is.
Yeah, it's been 6 years.
I know.
So, but it would take me probably longer than the average person to be comfortable, but it wouldn't be out of like any type of weird thing.
But I think there's also a difference between an in-feed post and like a story post.
Yeah.
Because like stories last 24 hours. Like you can't at least post me on your freaking story. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, please.
No, I've also experienced that. Not
yeah.
so.
I'm like, you can at least be on the story like that. That's a big one.
No, I'm good with my rankings. Also, none of the things you said are on my list, so this is fantastic. And mine are like
I'm a little scared for yours. I feel like
slightly different.
I feel like I went easy on you.
Okay. Get ready. 1 through 5. First one, they live at home with their parents.
Okay, I feel like this is age specific. Because at my age of 31...
we'll go late 20s, early 30s.
I'm sorry. Like, that's a huge no-go for me. I don't really care what your reasons are. I don't really... I really don't care. Like, and that's...
Red flag? That's what I'm saying?
That's a... God damn it. I feel like you're going to screw me in these.
We have 4 more to go, so...
Oh, my gosh. I feel like I'll just go safe with 3. But that is such a big one to me.
Because you're such an independent.
I'm so independent. So like to me that immediately makes me concerned.
And you take pride in your home, in your space, and like everything else. Yes. So I'm the same way.
Yes. And like don't get me wrong, like when you're like, 22, 23, like fresh out of college or like, young adult, like whatever, like I totally understand that. I lived at home for almost 11 months after I graduated college just to like save some money before I moved into my own apartment, but like I would never go back. Like I would, no. And obviously like financial hardships happen, different things happen.
No,
like,
right. Nothing of what I just said gives you any insight into their life circumstances. It's a very generic statement.
It's just at my age, in your late 20s, early 30s, if you don't at least have your own apartment, I'm probably just not dating you. Like that's
these are red flags, right? It's just how red is the flag.
Oh, it's hard because that feels like a 2, but I'm going to give it a 3.
Okay.
Just to be safe.
Okay. Next up, raising their voice during an argument.
This is... Sorry, I just yelled into the mic.
Red flag, raising your voice.
That is my number one thing.
We agreed that this is like within the first 3 months of dating, right? This is like you're in your like first fight kind of thing, and they raise their voice.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I'm probably going to have to put that at like either 1 or 2, just because me personally, like I have been in a verbally abusive relationship in my past, and that is literally the one thing I do not tolerate. And if I witness that within the first 3 months of dating, you are out the door so fast. I'm not even blinking.
Because you're not going to wait for that to escalate into. And this, I specifically said, just raising their voice. We're not talking about like punching holes in the wall or like flipping tables, but like that is
if it's at the point where your voice is raised to any slight variation of me feeling even remotely threatened, I can't even express how fast I'm gone and how little I care about you after that fact. Like after what I've been through with that, I do not tolerate it. I have no tolerance for that. So I want to put it at number 1 because that's such an intense one for me, but then I feel like I'm going to regret that. So
But remember, in the past, you've left your number 1 open.
And regretted it.
So I feel like just go with your gut.
I feel like I have to put that at number 1 because that's such like especially just given my past, like I have no tolerance.
That sounds very number 1. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just trying to reassure you that you seem very passionate about this.
I just always have been, just after what I've witnessed and experienced. So that's going to be my number 1.
Okay.
Dang, I hope I don't regret it, but I just feel so strongly about that one.
But if there's nothing that could be worse than that, then like...
I mean, but truly the only thing that's worse than that is if it escalates past raising voices to any type of like physical display. No, I don't have anything on that. Okay, no. Then we're good.
We don't need... We're trying to keep
we're not
this
going
fun,
there.
okay? Like this is not meant to like
stir
anything for anyone.
No.
Okay, the next one, asking for you to share your location with them after the second date. I initially put after the first date, but that just seemed like too crazy. So after the second date, I feel like
even the second date is insane.
That's why it's a red flag.
That's insane. You don't need to know where I'm at. You don't need to know my business. Like, absolutely not. Like, you have my location, and sometimes I'm like, oh, is like. Even not you, but like just sometimes like my friends, I'm like, oh, they know where I'm at. Like it's like sometimes even weird for me.
I only will check your location if I'm gonna like call you out of the blue.
Oh well, yeah, and that's like the whole reason we have it.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, she's home. It's fine. I'll go work.
Fine. Yeah, no, but like even my friends, sometimes I'm like, you don't need to know where I'm at all the time. Yeah, it's like so that's well. Weird.
Also, there should be a future segment topic of sharing your location with significant others. Yeah, and like at what point do you have that conversation? But this we're just 1 through 5 ranking them after the second date. They're like, hey,
I think I'm gonna put that at like 4. I mean, that's like a pretty big one for sure. Like I'm running. I'm immediately running.
All of these are red. All of these should make you run. All of these
should make you run for sure. But I'll put that at number 4 because the other ones are way higher.
Okay.
So I have 2 and 5 left, right?
Yes. Yep. Okay, next.
Maybe hold on. Maybe I should put that one at 5. Should I put that one at 5? You're scaring me.
You gotta pick where you're putting it.
Yeah, let's put it at 5.
1, 3, and 5. Even split.
1, 3, and 5.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Next up, taking over 24 hours to reply to texts.
Oh, okay. That should have been 5. I'll put that as 4. I mean, I think it just depends.
Remember, this is early on in dating. They didn't tell you, hey, I'm going to be busy.
I'm just so chill in the first few months of dating where it's like, I
think you forget what it's like.
I might. That's fair. I very well could be forgetting.
But I think you forget what it's like.
If you had said 48 hours, I would probably put that at 2 because that would drive me crazy.
I was between writing 24 and 48 hours, but I feel like even 24 hours of zero response or like texting or like you ask them a question and then they don't get back to you.
That's fair. If you like have asked them a question and they don't respond for 24 hours, like I'm concerned.
And that's more of what we're like you were engaging in a conversation.
Okay.
And
so it wasn't just like the conversation died and like, okay. So it's more like you have like reached out and they have not responded.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would stress me out big time.
Especially if because my thing, we've said this in other episodes, being all about proactive communication of that segment we did on like when you get super busy and like people come like lower priorities and
just
whatever.
Tell me. I'm going to be busy for the next 48 hours. Like just let me know.
Yeah.
Like
no, this is them just like
dipping mid conversation or like after you've asked a question.
Yeah.
Maybe I should put that at 2.
What is my last one? Oh.
Suspicious. I'll put that at 4 because like it depends on the situation and like it can vary and whatever. So I'll put that one as 4.
Okay.
So what is my number 2?
Final one, making you pay for everything.
Oh, that definitely belongs at number 2, especially the first few dates.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've talked about this in another episode. I don't. The first couple of dates, like that's definitely. I'm very old fashioned in that way.
Yeah, and this is like I don't care what kind of couple you are. Like, to make someone pay for everything
is not cool.
And I'm very much of like you should be offering to pay. Like if they get the dinner, you can get dessert. If they get 100%. The movie, you can pick up the snacks. Like I know you like to be like pursued and whatever. And oh, sorry, Mike. I'm all for that. But I do think that like
there's a way to like reciprocate and make it, more equivalent and all of that. And so and I'm all for that. I mean, I'm very much like I think I said this in a previous episode, but we basically for me, like after the third date, I'm offering to pay for the next one full go. Or for example,
but should be like a back and forth.
100%. And like if we, go to dinner for the first one, I absolutely expect, I'm dating men. I fully expect the man to pay for that on the first one. But then after like the second one, if we go to lunch or something, or if we go get ice cream or whatever, like I'm offering, like hands down. Like I want to make sure that he knows that I can contribute and what I can bring to the table, and that like I'm not afraid. I don't expect him to pay for everything. Right. Like I want to make sure all of that is accurate too.
And it's a respect thing, right, for them, right? So just like how you wouldn't want someone to make you pay for everything, you shouldn't have to make them pay for everything. Exactly. Also, if they ask you out, then you should pay. Like then they should like treat you to that. 100%. I just think it's super weird if you're early on dating and they're making you pay for everything.
If that happened more than one time, I'm gone.
Yeah.
I'm gone.
And again, these are very blanket statements, right? Of like, you don't know the circumstances. Like maybe they're in school and you've got a full-time job and so whatever. But they should not be like making you pay. That should be something you want to do. Like you want to treat them, not offered. By default that you're just footing the bill for everything.
100%. Yeah, that definitely belongs at number 2. If they're making that happen, like I'm gone by date 2.
Nope.
No. We don't tolerate that.
Did you feel pretty good with your...
I actually think I ended up really good with that one.
I gave you a little.
You did. I really appreciate you helping me with that decision, because I was like, I'm so strong about the raising voices one.
That feels like a number 1 to me.
That is, and you know that was like one of my ultimates too.
Yeah, for a lot of people, that's a red flag.
That's a big no-go.
So there you guys have it. Our blind rankings. If you participated, drop them in the comments.
Yes.
As we've mentioned, Spotify is constantly changing their feature, so they currently have the ability to leave comments. So if you want to do that, feel free.
But by the time this episode launches,
who knows?
We don't know. So we hope it's there.
Who knows? Yeah, because we used to be able to do like the Q&As. That's gone now. Yeah. I think we can just do polls.
Now we can only
do polls. But now
they
can do comments. But I don't even know if we can respond to
Spotify's weird. Spotify's weird.
But you can always leave comments on YouTube, so feel free to drop them.
And YouTube has been pretty consistent, so
for very long,
for a very long time.
Spotify's still making up their mind
for like 20 years. YouTube has been pretty consistent. So
So let us know or any red flags. I think this would be a fun one to do again, because the list
we could do so many.
The list can go on.
We can also do red flags like once you're like in a more serious relationship, like
or green flags.
We could do the beige flags are a funny trend.
Oh yeah,
so we could definitely do more of these.
Absolutely. Yeah. But there you guys have it. Common mistakes, common red flags. Chatting with the reptile girlies.
Yeah.
If you haven't already, you can sign up for early access to all of our episodes. You can get them 1 week in advance. Would love to have your support, so thank you to anyone who's already doing that. You can leave us a comment, a review, a thumbs up, a subscribe, all those fun things.
Follow us on all the socials at The Wild Type Podcast.
You can check me out, Neptune the Chameleon.
Lyssa's Lizards.
We will catch you guys in the next episode, and thanks for tuning in.
Bye, girlies.